You're listening to the Mile High Church podcast, and on Wednesday, November 26th, we have a Thanksgiving Eve service led by Dr. Michelle, but featuring Hazel Miller and our Mile High Church choir. It's going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of pie, too, so show up a little early. Looking forward to that.
So we are continuing on with the Beatitudes, the wisdom of the Beatitudes, part 2, or we were joking back in the back, part 2, if we want to give it a little more oof, right? Part 2. And so we are taking a look at the 8 Beatitudes. There's some controversy. Some people feel like there's a couple more than 8, but in the work and research that I've been doing, it looks like the 8 are really the key ones. And last week we went through the first 4 and talked about them and unpacked them from a specific viewpoint, because what we discovered is that these Beatitudes, if we go back and we look at the original language that Jesus was speaking when he spoke them, he was speaking in the language of Aramaic. And there is a man that I have loved for many years and read and followed named Dr. Rocco Errico, who also was a colleague of George Lambza. Together they wrote and created a version of the Gospels called the Lambza Bible. And it seeks to express the things that were said during those times from that direct translation, rather than going from the Aramaic into the Greek or the Hebrew and into English and French and Spanish and Russian and all these different languages all over, Italian, all over the planet, where we know that when that happens, things can shift a little and change a little. And that's why there are a number of versions or a number of Bibles out there who express things differently. And so it's been very powerful for me to revisit this original languaging and understand that according to Dr. Errico, the words in the Beatitudes that we hear mostly starting out, blessed are they, we discovered that it's really about bliss, and that Dr. Errico translates them into blissful are they. I found out it interesting last week as I completed the first half of this series that many people expressed to me throughout the week and last Sunday how they had learned the Beatitudes when they were young and whatever religious training they were brought up into. And some of them felt like they'd been hammered home and they knew them really well. And other people had heard of them but weren't quite sure about them. And then some people are like, what's a beatitude? I'd never heard of one before. So we have this varying experience here. So I just want to briefly let you know what these beatitudes are. They are contained in Matthew, the Gospel according to Matthew, in a Sermon by the Mount, the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus purportedly gave to thousands of people out in the middle of the desert. In the middle of this sermon, he gave these 8 statements that have since been labeled Beatitudes. He didn't call them Beatitudes. There's nowhere in the Bible where it says, here's some Beatitudes for you. It's that people started to call them Beatitudes. And actually, Dr. Errico says it's also interesting to know that originally naming these particular teachings as Beatitudes comes directly from Latin. In this language, beatus means happy or happiness. And that goes along with what Dr. Errico is saying is the translation of the very first word in every single one in the Aramaic, that it can be translated into bliss, blissful, joyful. It can be translated into these words where there's a suggestion, a strong suggestion that I gave us last week and I'll remind us of this week, that in these statements, Jesus was making an attempt to communicate with the people who were listening in a way that I think was about activating their spiritual bliss. Not the bliss because everything was going their way, or not the bliss because they just had a grandchild, or not the bliss because it was a sunny day, or not the bliss because they were falling in love, or not the bliss because they'd come into financial abundance, and not the bliss because they were away from the Romans who might be watching over them, but the bliss that exists at the core of them, that through these statements, which in all honesty at times seem rather simple, straightforward statements about how to live life, he was not only attempting to speak them, he was attempting to activate something in them that would remember the truth about them and the truth about the kingdom of heaven that lives within all beings everywhere, and to bring them into that energy. It was fascinating to think about how there were no microphones, thousands of people speaking, and that this Sermon on the Mount apparently went on for days. So I once again implore you never to criticize me or Josh for how long our talks go. Right? Days. Imagine you go into the desert and sit there for days, just because you want to hear the teacher preach, right? What an experience. Now, I equate this to, for me personally, in this life, I have had times where I was fortunate to be in the presence of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. There was a time in particular in Italy in 2004 where a group of us had gone for the Association for Global New Thought, and we were in the summer residence of the Pope, and His Holiness came in, and he was up there in front of us. Ron was there. I bet you remember that. And the truth is, what he said seemed really simple. Love each other, have compassion for each other. I'm going to say some of those things today too. But what was profound is being in his presence. I could have giggled like a little girl through his whole presentation. I was in joy just being near this man. It felt like he activated something in every one of us that was there that just felt like the deepest, profound joy. I didn't care what was going on in the world. I was right in that moment in the bliss of that presence. And I imagine that to be what it might have felt like in the presence of Jesus of Nazareth. That crowds, think about this. There was no online marketing. There was no Facebook. People couldn't text each other and say, I hear he's going to be in Jerusalem today. Let's all go, right? There was none of that. So the word had to be spread organically amongst the people that he's gathering up on the hill, and we're all going to go listen to him. Bring your food. Let's go together. Bring a blanket. We'll sit on the hard ground for days and listen to the rabbi speak. And they did. There was something that compelled them. And these statements have stood the test of time for thousands of years as people lean into them and discover them and feel the light that they contain. I think for me personally, especially as retranslated and looked at through the eyes of Aramaic, people have tried to recreate modern day Beatitudes, statements that can make us feel happy. And some of them are funny. I found a couple that were really funny this week. Somebody wrote, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst, for they are sticking to their diet." One of the most famous ones I've seen over and over again is, "Blessed are those who can laugh at themselves, for they shall never cease to be amazed." True, right? And so we jump into these states of bliss this week in translating the last four. And I think that this was absolutely a powerful intention on behalf of Jesus, to activate bliss amongst people who were struggling to make ends meet, who were struggling under the rule of the Roman Empire, who was struggling in so many ways. And Jesus' ministry and his message was this warm message, always calling people back to the kingdom of heaven within them, always calling people back to love no matter what, loving our enemy, loving no matter what, compassion no matter what. And it was considered revolutionary. People thought he was crazy. I don't know about you, but I certainly know that I've been accused of that. To be so, how can you be so loving when, bop, bop, bop? How can you be so kind when, bop, bop, bop? Well, I sure hope that that's what people say about me when I'm gone. That no matter what happened, she was always loving, she was always kind. That's who I want to be. And I think that's who we yearn to be. At the core of our being, each one of us can resonate with this great teacher's message because that's who we want to be. This beautiful, beautiful, warm message that calls to us. And so we begin today with the Beatitude number 5. Normally, as many of us have heard it in modern times, it goes like this: Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Now, according to Dr. Errico, how it goes in the Aramaic is, blissful are they, the compassionate, for upon them is compassion. What he is talking about in this particular version of these Beatitudes, we believe that Jesus is really talking about that notion that as we reap, we sow, the divine law of reciprocal love that has its way with every single one of us. And what that means is that in Aramaic, mercy can be synonymous with compassion, with empathy, with forgiveness. And every time we choose compassion, empathy, and forgiveness, not only are we freeing ourselves up to live in a more blissful life, we are setting the law in motion to be forgiven, to be extended compassion to be empathized, to have people have empathy for us in our life, that we get to understand through this particular beatitude that what we put out tends to come back to us, which is a core teaching here at Mile High Church and in Science of Mind and Spirit, that we do the holy work of being compassionate and loving partly because we know that serves all people everywhere, and partially because we know that with every choice we make, we're setting this law in motion. And it's blissful to choose to love our enemy, as Jesus suggested. It's blissful to choose compassion when logic might tell us otherwise. When I thought about this particular beatitude, I remembered a time many years ago. My first husband, his name is Brad, and he's a practitioner here at Mile High Church. And he and I were in Paris many years ago. It's the first time we'd gone to Paris, and a congregant had a father who let us use his apartment in Paris to stay in. And so we would take the train into town. Every day we were there and bebop around. And this particular day, we'd gone to the Musée d'Orsay, I think is how they say it. It's a museum, and it was a beautiful museum, but at the front door, it said very clearly, we are having problems with pickpockets. So we encourage you to check your bags at our bag check. So we went over and put all of our stuff in our backpack that Brad had been carrying, and we checked the backpack, and then we toured the museum, and we came out, and we got our backpack and went out and went across the street from the museum, and we were standing on a bridge overlooking the river and seeing this beautiful, expansive scene of Paris, and it was gorgeous. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, some intuitive part of me said to Brad, do you have your wallet? Isn't that sweet? A nice romantic moment. And I'm like, do you have your wallet? And he did, I always say, he did that thing that some of you male people do where you go, that dance. And he realized he didn't have it. And then he realized that when he checked the backpack, he didn't take his money thing clip out of his pocket that had been in the side pocket and put it in the backpack, and someone had taken it. And it had a number of our travelers' checks and quite a bit of cash. And so we're standing there on this bridge, and we're like, at first, kind of frustrated. And then we started really getting dark. I think I might have said, one of us said, wonder if that thief is taking that money and going to go buy drugs or something horrible, or go get alcohol and get drunk, or party or do something. And then I said, well, I kind of would have liked to party with that money myself. And the more we talked, it was this very interesting evolution. Two practitioners standing on the bridge overlooking the River Seine and suddenly going, what if that person took that money because they're hungry and they don't have any food to eat today? Or what if they're sick and they need money to help them get well? Or what if they have kids and they don't know how to feed their kids and they took our money for that? And so then we were both like, well, we probably would have given it to them if we knew that. And I said, well, how do we know why they took the money? We don't know. So we decided, what if we believe they took it for a good cause? And that we just gladly surrender it over to them. It's only money after all. There's always more money. Let me say that again. There's always more money, right? So there isn't, though, any good coming from that angry frustration sent the way of someone even when they've done us wrong. No good. No good comes from that. No good at all. For me, for that person, for the situation. So we decided to stand there on that bridge and pray for that thief. And pray that they would be blessed by taking our money, that they would be blessed by whatever they chose to do with it, that it would energetically lift them up in some profound way. And then we prayed and affirmed that the rest of our trip would continue to be a blissful journey of exploring Paris. And indeed, that's what it was. We easily, as soon as we were done praying, we easily got over to the American Express office like that and canceled those travelers' checks so they could use the cash, but they couldn't use the checks, and we got more. And we easily went on with our trip. And I say that not to say, aren't we fabulous? Brad and I were so fabulous, but to say that taught me a lesson, a profound lesson, because the bliss continued because we let it. We allowed it to continue. It couldn't have been stolen from that thief unless we let them take it. This Beatitude says, blissful are they the compassionate, for upon them is compassion. This is a choice that we can make every single moment of our lives. And not only then do our fellow humans benefit from it, we benefit from it. The next one is very similar and indeed connected. I found this beautiful meme that says, your capacity to allow people to live in a truth completely opposite yours without shutting off your compassion for them is a reflection of how powerful your love is. Powerful love. Don't shut off the compassion. The next one is about being pure of heart, continuing to allow the pure heart to flow. Blessed are they, the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And the translation from Aramaic isn't that different. This one has stood the test of time fairly well. Blissful are they, those who are pure in their heart, for they shall see God. This one is pointing us to when we are connected to our hearts, when we allow our hearts to be pure with sincerity and honesty and love and with pure-hearted attention to ourselves and our life and our loved ones, to the things that are important to us. That pure heart will guide us and direct us into greater and greater good and greater love. And it can be a challenging thing. I know it can be, because it's revolutionary to love like that. Most people don't support us in loving like that. Most people support each other in how bad is it? Who's at fault? What's wrong? Who should we blame? Who can we make wrong today? Being pure of heart and compassionate and loving means that we've got to sometimes step out of that cycle of human nonsense into this greater energy of compassion and pure-heartedness. And so because we do this, we have an inner vision and we access what Jesus referred to over and over again, the kingdom of heaven, through pure-heartedness. Blissful connection to the true source of our being through pure-heartedness and compassionate living. Powerful, powerful phrases. The next one, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Also got translated, According to Dr. Errico, very similarly, blissful are they, the workers of peace, for they are being called sons of God. Peacemakers are active agents of reconciliation, bringing together parts that have fallen away from each other, that are not peaceful, whether it's our inner systems or external systems. Reconcilers, peacemakers, are those who will do the holy, sacred, sometimes difficult work of reconciliation. And every week here at Mile High, almost every Sunday, we sing that peace song. Remember those words? Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. So today I suggest to us that the first step in being a peacemaker has all to do with the reconciliation of the innermost parts of ourselves. Where are we not at peace with ourselves? Where are we at war with ourselves? At war with our unhealed past, or at war with our pain, at war with our disappointments, our betrayals, at war with ourselves in some way that we are experiencing that separation. And the powerful thing, and one of the things that's kept me engaged in this teaching for so long, is that through our services and classes and things that we teach, it's all about becoming a peacemaker. It's all about the work of the reconciliation of the truth of who we are to ourselves. Because what's happening for most of us when we're not in that sacred, honorable place of being a peacemaker is we've abandoned ourselves. Because at the core of ourselves, the innermost aspect of us, the divine expression of us, seeks to be a peacemaker in every situation. Seeks to make peace in our hearts with our loved ones and with the conditions of our lives and all the things that I mentioned. Seeks to be reconciled with the capital T truth of who we are as we navigate the waters of our daily living. That's the first step in being a peacemaker. And honestly, I would say that without that step, our efforts to go out into the world beyond and make peace won't always be as powerful as they could be, because we still are not at peace within ourselves. And sometimes we're using our peacemaking efforts out there to accommodate ourselves and feel better about ourselves because, hey, I may be really angry at everyone in the world, but I'm out there making peace. It doesn't quite jive, though. Do you hear it? When it comes out, it's sort of like, that doesn't quite go together. A true peacemaker is doing the work within and without. Within and without. We allow ourselves to do this powerfully. The great teacher Ram Dass says, the work of quieting our minds and opening our hearts prepares us to be able to act in the world in a way that doesn't create more suffering. When we develop that stance, a perspective arises towards life that allows us to be effective actors on the stage of life so that you and I become instruments of healing, instruments of peace, of love, and of wisdom. That's what it means to be a peacemaker. We are the instruments of that. And the last beatitude, it's a short one from the general, what we hear about it, but then in the Aramaic, he really made it long. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Translated from the Aramaic, blissful are you when they are reviling you and persecuting you and are saying every malicious word against you falsely because of me. Then rejoice and thrive, because your reward is increased in heaven. For in like manner, they persecuted the prophets who were before you. This is another pointer to stand for truth and justice, even when it can cost us at times. And I think it was also a foreshadowing that Jesus gave to his people about what was to come, because there was a time after he was gone when they were searching after followers of Jesus, when the followers of Jesus were not welcome in polite society. And so he was basically saying, even when they revile you, even when they attack you, even when they come after you for believing in me, stand strong, stand in love, stand in these truths. And remember that others have gone before you who had to stand strong. And when he's pointing towards the reward reward is increased in heaven. He's not talking about some far off place, because remember, Jesus talked over and over again about the kingdom of heaven being right here, right now. He's again saying that when we stand in our truth, we shall experience heaven, no matter who might persecute us, criticize us, make us wrong, because we're standing in the truth of who we are and who we know ourselves to be and how we choose to live in this powerful life. And that's worth something. And I thought, as I worked on this last one, wow, isn't that synchronistic that some of us are about to be at the table of some of our relatives for Thanksgiving, right? And we may feel this feeling. Some of us may have felt persecuted, criticized, unaccepted, unloved, unappreciated, unseen in the environments that we might show up. And this is a powerful, powerful moment to practice this, to stand so tall in who and what we are, even at Thanksgiving, that we can be a powerful presence and be a peacemaker by just being the love and the light and the truth and standing in our unique self. It's interesting that Johnny Carson observed that people travel long distances for Thanksgiving to see family only once a year and then realize that's way too often. If that's the case for you, this beatitude might be of service. So these beatitudes, again, calling us to compassion, being pure of heart, being a peace worker, standing in the integrity of who we are, even if others do not like it. And I'll leave you with these final words from Dr. Rocco Errico, who believed that we were all disciples of this great work of Jesus. It wasn't just the people who followed Jesus around when he was here thousands of years ago. It was his call to all of us to live out this kind of love in the world and be a disciple of it for the greatest and most effective living. And so Dr. Errico says, discipleship for the nations is not done by force or fear. Jesus' disciples were to demonstrate the new order of life from their own spiritual fount, that spiritual fount that was within them, that was part of them. It is not a special, enlightened doctrine to be revealed. Rather, it is the flow of spiritual energies of peace, joy, love, compassion, and deep understanding of what we face as human beings living in a challenging world generated by so many authoritative and misguided humans. And so we have this chance to live out these beautiful teachings today and every day. Let's do it. Let's do it together. I invite us to pray together. Our practitioner prayer partners are standing for this prayer now, and I remind us all that we can come forward at the end of the service and receive prayers from these beloved ones who come down front, and I especially encourage you to do that if you're stepping into uncomfortable positions or family experiences this Thanksgiving holiday, or feeling a little alone, or if you've got something great you want to celebrate, still come forward and let us pray for you. And so together we pray now. We step into this space of recognizing the one power, the one presence, the one life, and the one light that is God, that infinite presence that expresses itself in all, through all, as all of creation. And allow ourselves to breathe it in, and in that moment that we do this, I see and sense that each one of us is an expression of this divine presence, that we are the living embodiment of God, of spirit, and that we have access to that blissful spiritual connectedness that is a guiding force for our everyday living. And so I accept and affirm through this oneness that we experience and express this day, that each one of us goes forth from this place feeling the opening of this energy powerfully and magnificently, for our own light and life, and for the sake of all that we share our life with. We are blissfully connected to the love and the compassion, the wholeness, to the peacemaking, to the justice, to all of the good that God is, and to these beautiful messages from these Beatitudes. And we go forth in that bliss with great love and light. I give thanks that this is our truth right here and now. I give thanks that this is what is expressing through us and as us. And in this gratitude, then I can simply release this prayer, letting it go and letting it be in confidence, faith, and trust. For it is done as it has been spoken, and we let it be. And so it is. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. This podcast is made possible by the generous contributions from listeners like you. To make a donation, please visit milehighchurch.org.